check the levels there. All right. Make sure we're not too hot. Oh. All right. So much technology. All right. Hello. And welcome to The Playful Life. I am Krystal, the Playful Trainer. I'm your host. And of course, it is brought to you by The Playful Journal, your 12-week guide to a more playful life, and also the Playful Program. I'm so happy today to have Audric Warren with us. He is the owner of Effort, Performance, and Rehabilitation, right? Okay.
Yes,
Awesome. Now, do you shorten it to Rehab or is it Rehabilitation?
I shorten it to Rehab just because, we got short attention spans nowadays.
Okay,
so
yeah.
You can see it better.
Awesome. Could probably bring it a little bit closer or come up a little bit. Okay. Yes. So, this is cool. So, we actually have not seen each other in a very long time, but we went to high school together at Bishop Knoll Institute. Good old BNI. So I'm just curious, of course, I'll ask you all about what you've been doing with your life since then, and it'd be kind of cool to talk about like how that's like influenced our lives and our paths, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. I'm gonna share this, and you can do this as well if you like. Watch party. Have you found a good joke for me?
I think I got a good one.
Okay.
Or at least as good as it's going to get.
All right, cool. I like to do icebreakers with my guests, so this will be fun. Public. All right, cool. Here we go. Live. All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really bad at these.
You don't get to look.
Oh, no. Okay.
Of course. I figured that this one was appropriate considering the beautiful weather that we're having.
Oh.
What illness do martial artists get?
Oh, what illness do martial artists get? Ron thinks he has it.
Martial arts?
Uh-huh.
I'm a wordsmith, by the way. Really good.
See? There you go.
Oh, I don't know.
Kung flu.
Kung flu.
Kung flu. Oh my goodness. I feel like this is so fitting for all the things that are going on in the world.
Absolutely.
With, like,
I thought that was the most appropriate
coronavirus
one.
and everything.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Perfect.
Yeah. For those of you listening in warmer places in the world, we here in Northwest Indiana are experiencing a blizzard, but I think a lot of other places around the country are too, actually. Yeah. So, unless you live in like California or Florida.
Yeah, luckily.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That's funny.
Of course. I mean, I figured it would appeal to my nerdy nature and, appropriate for everything that's happening right now.
And I love martial arts, actually.
I mean,
I like
who
to box
doesn't?
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Who doesn't like karate and all that good stuff?
I know, right? I think it's so cool for kids to get into that stuff. As far as like the discipline goes and the coordination and the balance, like I danced as a kid, but I think martial arts also would have been a really good thing for me.
Would have loved that. I mean, who didn't grow up watching Bruce Lee
I
and
know,
all those
right?
things?
Yeah.
And,
Kung Fu and all of that stuff.
Exactly. Enter the Dragon, all those things.
Mm-hmm. So while we're on the topic of, growing up and being influenced and stuff like that, tell me a little bit about, your background and sort of where your love of, sports medicine or fitness or all of that kind of came from.
Well, I'm from Gary, Indiana. Obviously we went to Bishop Knoll together. I think a lot of where all of this spawned from was twofold. One, I was that kid that was always trying to take things apart. Like it drove my dad crazy. Like I was trying to figure out how things worked from the inside out. So he's like, all right, I need to figure something I can do with you so you stop destroying things. So what he did was basically he got me interested in puzzles and, mind teasers at a really early age. So just figuring out how things work was huge for me. And then second, I got hurt a lot in high school. A lot.
Really? Okay.
I mean, every year in football. It was, broken tailbone, a torn hip flexor, broken wrist, concussion, torn rotator cuff. I had injuries galore. So I spent a lot of time, rehabbing or just on the sidelines because of injuries.
Did you get to use the elevator key at Bishop
Oh,
Knoll?
absolutely. Me and that elevator were best friends.
The elevator was so scary.
Yeah, that thing, it was a little tricky, but we got there. We got to
Yeah.
class. Still
Yes.
got to class. um, yeah, I mean, and then you combine those things. I think that having that curiosity is I think that's the catalyst for wanting to be good at sports medicine, sports performance, is kind of figuring out how I can make this person the best that they can be. You know, whether someone comes in with an ankle sprain or someone comes in, they just want to jump higher. Exactly. It's like, well, why did that happen? How do we get them from point A to point B as efficiently, effectively, in a timely fashion, so that we don't have re-injuries, so that, you know, when we talk about sports medicine, so that they can get back to their sport at as close to peak levels as possible.
Awesome.
You
Yeah.
know, so that's where, you know, like, it's that, I like to call it like that murder mystery whodunit. You know, you got a lot of athletes that come in with aches and pains. It's like, all right, that ache and pain didn't just happen because, you know, their shoulder just magically started hurting. There was a catalyst somewhere along the way. You know, sometimes it might have even been something as weird as your big toe might not be working well, and that's why your shoulder doesn't feel good. How do we figure that out?
Okay.
You know, so that's kind of where a lot of that stemmed from. And just along the way, you know, I got involved with athletic training, and, you know, I just loved it. I loved it, and I wanted more of it, and I wanted to see what I could do with it and how I could make it my own, so to speak. So, yeah, it just kind of just came along, you know, as time went on, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Awesome. Now, did you play sports in college then, after high school?
I played 2 years of football, and I ran 3 years of track. I didn't play as long in football because in the athletic training program, you have to have so many hours, and you have to have a collision sport. And when you're playing that collision sport, it's like, well, crap, I'm going to lose either my junior or senior season. So it's like, well, you know, you got to give up something, you know, that you love for something else that you love, kind
Yeah.
of a situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's life, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. There's always a trade-off somewhere.
Yeah. Awesome. So when you you know, decided to go to college and do this, was it sort of something that you knew right away that you wanted to specifically work with a certain type of athlete, or like, how did that formulate?
You know, it's funny. I actually started off as a graphic design major.
Oh.
I did. Which is weird. Yeah, I started off as a graphic design major, and it just was not for me. And then I found that they had an athletic training program, you know, things along those lines. And the moment I got involved, I was like, awesome. This fascinates me, like figuring out how the human body works, etc. Like, I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how that spawned there.
Yeah. So you enjoyed the anatomy part of it then?
Yeah,
Learning that?
I know, it's super. To a lot of people, it's super duper boring.
That was so daunting for me when I did my personal training. It was, just, I don't know. I was never very good at like biology and science, though. I was always more of like the English and math end of things. So I think just for me, for my brain to work in that way was very challenging. And then once we got into like the application of it all, that made so much more sense, obviously. But so when you were going through it, was there any part of that program in school that was a little bit more challenging than another?
The most challenging part for me was waking up for class. Yeah, I was a huge napper. I loved my sleep. A lot of my college professors, I'm sure when they see this, they'll get a little chuckle. They used to give me a hard time all the time about it. Like, I didn't figure out how to not be lazy for a long time.
Which is interesting for somebody who's so athletic.
Yeah, it took me a really long time to realize, like they told me, like, I had a lot of come to Jesus talks with them. A lot of them, you know, but, you know, they reassured me that, hey, you can write your own ticket. You're not dumb. Get your stuff together. Like, I had a lot of those conversations, and it took a while for it to click. You know, it even took for me until, like, after college for it to click. Like, hey, I can do whatever the heck I want to do with this, however the way I want to do it, but I have to want to do that. You know, I have to get off my butt and do it.
Yeah.
So it took me
And
a
now
little
as a
bit.
business owner, I mean, what a valuable lesson to learn early on, because I think that positioned you now to run a business and actually have that fire behind you, so to speak, to really go for it. And it's not easy being your own boss, right?
No.
I mean, there are days when you're like, oh, I just want to do this or that, or you get caught up in all these other things, but having that focus is important, you know, so it's a good thing you probably
Absolutely.
learned that lesson, you know? We
Yeah.
all go through things and it's all yeah, it has its meaning, I suppose.
Absolutely, you don't find it out like hindsight. That's why it's 2020, because you don't see the big picture until you're actually in it.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, I feel like you were speaking about something, and I was gonna tap into it. As far as athletes go, and what you do at Effort, of course, we'll get more into this, but is there like a certain type of athlete in general that comes to see you?
I work with anybody that moves. I mean, if you want to move
Yeah.
better, whether it's to get healthy, whether it's after an injury, during an injury, or even, like your goal is I want to play sports at the highest level. We work with every range as far as that's concerned. I get a lot of, I would say, volleyball is probably like the highest percentage of athletes that I get right now. But if you move, I got you.
Cool. Yeah, which is great because I want people to understand that when you see athletic trainers or, these places, it's not just people who are going for a sport or training for something big, but I mean, anybody, right? Anybody who goes to the gym and might have shoulder pain or knee pain, and they want to know how they can perform at their highest level and, you know, I guess preserve their body, right?
Yeah.
And all of that. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that. So I know when we were going back and forth, and you were kind of giving me what we're going to talk about today, you were saying how there's obviously a lot of people out there on the internet trying to tell you how to train your body and here's how you lose weight, and
Yeah.
right, that's sort of like the hot thing right now. There's a lot of people on Instagram with all these photoshopped photos of themselves, and they're like, get a butt like this or whatever. So let's break down for people who might be listening and don't understand the difference between someone like you and someone like Jenny out there on Instagram. Like, what's the difference? Like, what sets you apart? Obviously, because you are performing and providing something at a way higher level.
I think first and foremost is just education. A lot of people don't even know what an athletic trainer is, and we could probably get into that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't realize, as an athletic trainer, first and foremost, you have to have a college degree. It's not, just a random certification, etc. You have to have a minimum of a bachelor's, which now actually they're changing it to you have to have a minimum of a master's to be an athletic trainer.
Wow.
You have to actually be licensed in your state. All this continuing education, so on and so forth, different hours in clinicals, those kinds of things. Most people don't realize like that's sports medicine. When we talk about the strength and conditioning side of things, sports performance, whatever you like to call it, that's a whole other different section as far as that's concerned. Okay. But the reason that it sounds the same for me is that, well, I combine them.
Yes.
If you neglect one, you always neglect the other. So what I do over at Effort, like I said, we have to combine both of them so that we can reduce the risk of injury, so we can, work on people's performance, those kinds of things. I think the other thing that you wind up seeing as far as the difference is concerned is the approach. The first approach, is the evaluation. Mm-hmm. What you see a lot of times now when you talk about sports performance, we're going to talk about that strictly, is a lot of times the evaluation process is completely skipped. So just looking at how someone moves, let me do a video analysis of what your range of motion looks like in your shoulder, your knee, your ankle, whatever, how your hips work, all those good things, and plugging that into an actual program designed for you. A lot of times people just want to jump in the gym and just, let's go at it.
Yeah.
Let's just make this as hard as humanly possible until I puke. And it doesn't work like that, So that's one of the biggest things. And like you talked about Instagram has made sports performance, it has to look sexy and appealing, of course.
Right.
We got to make the pictures look like they're in the most perfect state, and the videos are edited so perfectly, and all these other things. And it's like the sports performance process is boring. It is monotonous. It is. It really is. It's not sexy or appealing. It's one of those things that it takes a very slow time. Like you have to, learn how to even, get the proper postures before you run. You have to learn how to do the proper postures before you can start throwing around heavy amounts of weight. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how to land before you can jump. Mm-hmm. And what winds up happening is
I like that quote, by the way. You have to learn how to land before you can jump.
Absolutely.
I always pick a quote out from my guests, and I'm like, that's your quote.
Yep, there you go. Take it.
We could pick a different one, but I like that one.
Well, people, and that's the thing, people want to skip those steps. And I think it's because we live in that, we want to hack things, society.
Yes.
I want to hack the heck out of this so that I can cut
I got
corners.
30 minutes. What can I do?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And there is no hack. And what happens is when people skip those steps and they try to hack their workouts, etc., that's when, one, you might increase the risk of injury. Two, you might just be wasting your time and not get the performance that you're looking for. Or three, you might have both. You get hurt, and now you lost time. Now you lost an opportunity. You know, it sucks.
Yes.
But that I think that's the biggest difference is what I do is we don't skip those steps. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. Plain and simple. But that's not always appealing to people.
Right. Yeah. Really hard work and long hours of hard work are not appealing to people? How strange. How strange.
It's crazy, right?
Right. But if you talk to any, I'm sure, successful athlete or, right, these guys at the Super Bowl over the weekend, like, they didn't get there overnight, you know, and it's sad when I do see, you know, athletes like that at that level, they get injured, they can't play the game, and it's like, oh, they're so close, right?
Yeah.
They're so close to all their dreams coming true or whatever, but maybe they didn't have someone like you along the way, you know, growing up, and they kept getting the same injury, and now all these things sort of culminate in their lives. So important, whether at that level or just an average Joe going to the gym, you know. I see a lot of people, I've trained a lot of different people at different gyms, and I've taught a lot of classes, and I always come back to form. Like, it's so important that you have the right form when you lift and all these things. And the difficult thing about teaching a lot of people at once is, of course, you can't have eyes on everybody all the time. And, you know, being able to really take that time with people individually to correct that form and see what their body's doing. And it takes a lot more than 50 minutes that we have in a class with 30 people. So I would strongly suggest, if you're out there and you love your gym and you're rocking it and you're getting great workouts, I would say go see someone like Audric, you know, go see Audric specifically. And, you know, he can tell you, right, like, how to get the most out of that workout.
Absolutely. I mean, movement is everything, and the better you move, you know, the better results you're going to get. And you're absolutely right. You know, it's very difficult in that class setting. I mean, it's even harder when you talk about sports performance in that setting, because their movement has to be on point. Like, there is no, all right, we can neglect that. It's okay. So when you got a class of 12 kids, 15 kids, there's no way you can be truly, like, effective, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. For them to get the results. I mean, these 12 kids all have to have individual needs. There's no way. There's no way each of them move the same way. There's no way each one of them has the same postures. I mean, just physiologically, you know, some kids might have flat feet. Some kids might have some crazy different hip issues. Like, you don't know what's going on. And, you know, trailing back to, like, the evaluation process, you don't even know that because you never even looked at it.
Right.
It's very difficult. So, yeah, you sometimes you have to, and I don't say sometimes, I mean, you have to see somebody individually, even if it's just, you know, for maintenance. You know, okay, let's see what's wrong. Let's at least get you on some sort of maintenance plan so that if you are doing these class settings, because maybe, you know, like budget-wise, it works better for you. Time-wise, it works better for you.
Right.
You can at least try to figure these things out so that you can plug this in once a week, et cetera, so you can figure it out. I mean, look, LeBron James. I mean, he spent about $1 million last year just to keep his body together.
Wow.
You know, and kids nowadays are playing almost as many games as him.
Wow.
So you got a
perspective.
Yeah, you got a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old playing as many games as LeBron James with a body that has not developed, that's not taking care of their body, and they're not getting great sports performance. It's the equivalent of like plugging in your phone with one of those gas station outlets. It kills your battery quicker than it normally would, right?
Right.
You know, it ruins your battery. So after a while, that battery starts to break down,
Yeah.
and then you wonder why your 11-year-old needs Tommy John surgery or tore their ACL. It just creates that cascade of problems that it's very difficult to come back from. And if you start off like they're starting off so young, imagine when they get to high school. Imagine when they get to college even. Their bodies are just wrecked.
Right.
And
Not to
everyone's
mention when they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s.
exactly.
Right? And in good health otherwise. And
then they're wondering why
Yeah.
their backs and knees and everything are just destroyed.
right.
It's been a whole process from when they first started that they didn't take care of their body or they didn't have the education on how to take care of their body. And it's very difficult to get that across because, like I said, Instagram makes it sexy that we want
Right.
a battle rope and we want a tire flip and we want a box jump.
Right.
And you don't want to do the arm care if you're a baseball, softball, volleyball, upper extremity athlete. It's just very difficult to get that to the masses sometimes.
Yes.
So you get these small pockets of people that get it, and I mean sometimes that's what you're gonna get.
Well, this is great. I mean, I'm glad that we're bringing this message at least to people and, to change the rhetoric around it, right? And like you said, kind of changing the face of sports medicine and how that's approached and how people think of it. And, thinking more universal, like this is for anybody. This isn't just for, your kid who got injured, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously for them too, but, for everybody in their lives. We go to the doctor, we have to get a physical, right? They have to check our cholesterol and all these other
Absolutely.
things, but people don't go to someone like you and say, okay, well, before an injury happens, how is all this working?
Yeah.
Like, how is my posture? How is my, my gait? I mean, for years, I've noticed now, I think because of this last ankle injury, that when I walk, like for some reason, I walk on the like edges of my feet.
Yeah.
And so, whether inversion, one of those fractures or
Yeah.
rolls,
Yeah,
when you
inversion
roll
rolls,
your
yep.
ankle out, basically, I've always been very susceptible to that. And I don't know that I've ever had anybody correct that or tell me that that's what I was doing. But once I became aware of it, I started noticing it all the time. And I even look on the bottom of my shoes and there's a wear pattern there on the
Yep.
bottom of my shoes that, if I had taken the time to come to you sooner, I probably would have learned that. And unfortunately, I've learned that the hard way, throughout my life. I've rolled my ankles tons of times. And I think I did tell you, like, I was getting a workout in, I was at home, and of course it was one of those, like, I got a half hour, I got to be in Chicago on a film shoot at 11, it's 8 a.m., I'm going to do this workout, and went for it. And I was coming from a place of, I got to work out because I'm going on this vacation and blah, 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 and rolled the ankle, broke it. Lovely. Was in a beautiful boot all the time I was in Italy. I couldn't enjoy, the trip to the fullest, and I was hobbling. And, I mean, it was crazy, so.
Leaning tower.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, you guys picking on me over here, but that's the truth of it, right?
Yeah.
You go and go and go until a point where your body says, "Oh, hold on here," and sometimes that's at the really, really wrong
Yeah.
timing, right?
It's always the worst timing.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, again, it's tough when people don't know, and what winds up happening, and kind of piggybacking off what you mentioned with, you being in a boot. I see this happen all the time where, docs will tell, people who enjoy moving, whether they're, weekend warrior or, highly level athlete. Okay, once you're out of that boot, once you're out of that cast, whatever. All right, go back to doing what you're doing. How in the heck is that work? It doesn't. It doesn't,
Right.
because that whole ankle joint has now changed because it hasn't moved, and now because you've been walking on this boot, now your whole posture is different. Your whole kinesthetics have changed, and you expect someone to go back to their normal life, and then you wonder why people's ankles are never the same after a sprain. You wonder why someone who suffered ankle sprains wind up having multiple ones, then their knee hurts, then their back hurts, then, I use the Derrick Rose thing, no, as a perfect example.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, oh my God, Derrick Rose he was so soft and blah, 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 and he hurt his knee just because he hurt his knee. It's like, no, look, dude had like, he hurt his big toe, he pulled his groin, then he hurt his back, then he hurt his ankle, then the knee went.
Right.
There's never just, unless there's some, real acute issue, but a lot of times there are these cumulative traumas that have changed, how we move until there's tissue failure.
Yeah.
But you don't know that until you either learn the hard
Right,
way,
you do.
or you learn along the way that this is how we try to reduce the risk of those things, which can be very difficult, but that's just the nature of it.
Right.
You don't know until you know.
Right. Yeah.
And when we talk about that, it's a cultural shift that needs to happen. Getting these athletes, just people in general, aware that we are designed to move. You're not going to be able to go from stagnant to flowing in a heartbeat. It does not work like that. And especially, like I said, since I work a lot with, youth athletes, getting that information, I'll use this as an example. I've seen a lot of pitchers that this has happened to, softball, baseball, and even catchers. You have doctors that'll just say, okay, your elbow hurts, your shoulder hurts. Okay, this is what I think is what's wrong. Just don't throw for a year and then come back. Well, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's literally insane. Because, well, why does it hurt? Yes, I understand that maybe you might have aggravated your rotator cuff. You might have aggravated your labrum, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, what are you doing to fix that? Time doesn't just fix things. Yes, the tissue will heal, but if you haven't addressed, the range of motion in the shoulder, the core strength, maybe the hip mobility, maybe something along the lines of, they were a chronic ankle sprain and they are missing some dorsiflexion in their plant foot, the balance, all these things.
Big words.
I know, right? If you don't address these things, you wind up with the why. But people get this information that just stop doing stuff and you'll be fine. And then you
Right.
wonder why once they get back into it, they get hurt again. And then now they're frustrated. I'm frustrated with sports now. I don't want to play anymore because I don't want to get hurt.
Right.
You just took someone's love away from them.
Yes.
You also took someone's opportunity away from them, and that's not okay. So that educational component has to start at the doctor's office. And then once you start to do your rehabs, whether it's with your PTs, your athletic trainers, etc., then you have to get that secondary educational process of, okay, now we can figure out why that's happening in your body. How do we address it?
Okay.
And just keep, snowballing from there.
I'd love to talk more on that, how you address it with your clients, and kind of I'd love for you to walk us through kind of like what the experience would be like coming to visit you. But we're gonna take a quick break because Ron is waving at me.
I love it.
So here we go. We're gonna hear from our amazing sponsors. If I can, no, not that one.
Commercials.
There we go. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
In Cherville is a dentist to the stars. Her wealth of knowledge in the area of pain management, plus her ability to communicate the process, makes you feel like a star. The practice is growing for all the right reasons. Call and set up an appointment before her client book is full. Call 219-322-4036 and tell them you heard about it right here on Ron Harlow Media. Dr. Tori's Dental Shop is located at 130 East Joliet Street in Cherville at 219-322-4036. Call and feel better about every dental visit you ever have again.
Spend the holidays with us in downtown Hammond, Indiana. You'll have a fun and festive time while supporting small and local businesses. Enjoy shopping, dining, brewery, the arts, and events. Like and visit the Downtown Hammond Council on Facebook for a listing of where to go and what to do. Call Karen at 219-512-4298 between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Hammond is happening.
Looking for a friend who knows how to be a good listener? Humane Indiana in Munster has four-legged friends waiting to meet you. Open daily at 11 a.m., Humane Indiana provides many animal services from rescue to daily care. They provide on-site education while managing a wildlife preserve. At the main facility located at 421 45th Street, the staff awaits your visit. Ron Harlow Media would like to thank Director Brian Fitzpatrick and Board Vice President Scott Filler from Apex Construction and Remodeling for their support. Visit Humane Indiana and leave with a new member of the family. To find out more, visit the Humane Indiana website or dial 219-922-3811.
We are taking the hassle out of holiday shopping at It's Just Serendipity. Gifts for everyone on your shopping list for every budget. We carry everything vintage and antique, handcrafted, upcycled, and repurposed goods by local artists, yummies prepared by local vendors such as honey, toffee, and biscotti. Carry decor, memorabilia, and custom gift baskets. Shop small with us at 5630 Homan Avenue in downtown Hammond, Indiana. Like It's Just Serendipity on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, or visit our website, itsjustserendipity.com.
Experience Broadway in Northwest Indiana. Established as the top provider of entertainment, Theater at the Center in Munster brings you the best in live theater, music, and comedy without city prices and parking hassle. With its elegant setting and superb talent, Theater at the Center in the Round makes each production must-see. 5-star dining is optional for select shows in each of the Thursday night performances. For show dates, times, and prices, visit theateratthecenter.com or call 219-836-3255. Ask about becoming a subscriber. Discounted tickets and priority seating are just a few of the benefits you'll receive. Call 219-836-3255. Theater at the Center. You'll leave impressed. Now listen to Harlow tell you about what's on stage right now.
That's right. Thanks, folks. This is Ron Harlow. Comedy at the CVPA is tomorrow night, Friday, February 7th. Headliner, Chicago news person Mike Toomey, of course, hosted by our dear friend Nick Geza, a 30-year comedy genius. The show is a dinner show. And if you'd like to do the dinner and the show, it's $45. Dinner starts at 6:30. Show's at 8. If you just want the comedy show, Theater in the Round is $30. Cash bar available. Call the box office at 219-836-3255 to pick up tickets, or just visit theateratthecenter.com or cvpa.com and pick up some tickets right there online. Back to Krystal, Kadar, and Audric Warren and the Playful Life. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Ron. Awesome. Yes, we love Theater at the Center. They're having a fine arts festival. I'm sure he mentioned that, but I will be there shaking hands and taking photos as Mrs. South Shore. Oh, my hair is just so crazy. Whatever. Yeah, so I'll be there at the Fine Arts Festival. Very excited about that. Okay. So, yes, we're here with Audric Warren from Effort, Performance, and Rehabilitation. And we were just talking on the break, too. Ron brought up a good point. About some athletes who are cross-trained, if you will, or multi-sport athletes, because they may be good in more than one area. So what's kind of the benefit or the drawback, or sort of maybe the situation with people like that?
Okay. I think the best way that I could describe that is nowadays the current trend is people are locked into one sport at an earlier age now. And I mean, they're literally, I'm a baseball player, I'm a softball player, I'm a basketball player. You know, they're starting to say that at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've decided that is the sport that I'm going to play. And if I don't start at this age, I'm not going to get the opportunity to play Division I or go to the show. Like, that is the mentality that's ingrained in people's mindsets right now.
Oh, goodness.
And because of that, you're starting to see a couple different things happen. One of which is the concept of the athlete is gone. I mean, people are great at their sports now because they're starting earlier, and earlier. Mm-hmm. But the issue becomes they don't have athleticism. And I mean the most basic movement patterns like a squat, a lunge. I mean, something that requires the most basic thing that was a toy when we were growing up, like jump rope. Mm-hmm. Most kids don't even know how to jump rope.
Yes.
You know, they've lost that athleticism. And it's just it's like a foreign concept to their bodies. Mm-hmm. So that creates a whole other slew of issues where now you don't have these basic movement patterns down. So what winds up happening after that, they start to break down because cumulative trauma sets in, because these kids aren't just playing, back when we were growing up, you had a 10-game season maybe. They're playing 100 games a year.
Right.
And their seasons are going from one to the other, and they're doing hitting lessons and pitching lessons, and it's nonstop. Like, some of these kids are getting 15, 20 hours a week of sport.
Wow.
It's a part-time job.
Yes.
And that's a lot year round, and what winds up happening is the ratio that I always describe it as, for every hour of sport, that can include games, that can include practices, that includes hitting lessons, pitching lessons, skill lessons, individual lessons, all that stuff. Anything that pertains to sport, for every hour of that, you need a minimum, and I mean a bare minimum, of at least 20 minutes of strength and conditioning or weight room or maintenance to offset that cumulative trauma that's going on all year round. And if you don't have that, that's when you start to see those injuries skyrocket. That's when you see the plateaus. You start to see even those mental breakdowns.
Right.
And it's pretty prevalent because athletes are locked into one sport all year round. So you're not, breaking up that monotony. You're not breaking up that trauma that might be happening. Think of someone who's a baseball player. I'm rotating to one side.
Okay.
Thousands of times.
I was just about to ask you maybe to elaborate on that definition of trauma that you're talking about, because I think that's a foreign concept to people. They don't always understand that. Like when we work out, when we lift weights, when we do things, you're actually putting stress on your body.
Yep.
And that's how you change, right? That's how you transform. Your body says, okay, we're doing this or that, and it responds, and it essentially gets stronger in that area.
Yep.
So yeah, you were saying, certain types of motions can.
Absolutely. So think, as a baseball, softball player, you're swinging to one side. Baseball, softball, you're throwing with the same arm, continuously. Volleyball, you're hitting with the same arm. You're jumping repetitively. I mean, gymnastics, you're jumping hundreds of times a day. That trauma winds up being cumulative. And yes, you have to experience a certain amount to build and grow. But
right, not always a negative thing.
It's not always a negative thing. But what winds up happening is because there's more breakdown than build up, that's when it becomes an issue. So that's why, like I said, the strength and conditioning component comes into play, because it creates your body's ability to be more resilient.
Yes.
You're more prepared once you get fatigued, to be able to still move efficiently. You're not, using the wrong things. You're not having poor movement patterns, things along those lines. And the other part is now we're offsetting some of the asymmetries that you're creating because you're only rotating to one side. And we can even get a little bit crazier. Is think about it like this: your eyes are the direct line to your nervous system. So think of someone who's playing a baseball, softball. You're looking to one side thousands and thousands of times over a year. Think about that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're training your brain to only be effective with your eyes looking left and tracking left. What about the right side? What about up? What about down? And it's a direct line to how your nervous system functions. So think about you're training yourself in that manner too. So with your brain, like you're talking about something that controls the rate, rhythm, and accuracy of which you move. If that's off, think about what's happening when you try to move efficiently. The rate, rhythm, and accuracy is possibly going to be off because of it. So you can create dysfunction from your eyes to your body, just like, body to your brain.
Right.
So it's just one of those things that because sports is all year round, you run into those issues. Yeah.
Wow, what a cool segue, because I'm all about the mind, body, spirit connection here. So absolutely. I love that you brought up that it is a mind body connection. So maybe what are some things that, for instance, with somebody like that in that situation, that you would help them from an athletic trainer point of view to work on the mind part of it?
Okay. The mind part of that, when we talk about, your eyes, your inner ear, things like that, or do you mean specifically just like the mental aspect of it?
Maybe both, actually. Yeah, I think both are important.
Okay, we'll talk first about the brain and how that functions a little bit. So when we talk about how I work with athletes with that, there's two parts to that. One, I get some athletes that may have had previous concussions.
A big hot topic right now with football.
Absolutely. That have never gone through traditional rehab. They, again, were just told to sit out. And something as complicated as your brain, there's no way that you're not going to wind up having some residual effects. They're actually finding in some research that I would say a lot of athletes that have suffered a concussion within 6 months to a year wind up sustaining a lower extremity injury, so knee, ankle, hip, etc. Something to think about. But when we talk about that, I do a couple different tests to see how their eyes are functioning, just to kind of get a main line to their nervous system, and you'll wind up seeing that their eye tracking is off. And that's one thing that I love to plug into my evaluations before they even have a concussion is look at that. And I would say with at least a 99% accuracy, most athletes that have suffered some sort of concussion before and after, eye tracking is fine. Afterwards, it's not. So the moment that that's off, I guarantee that rate, rhythm, and accuracy is going to be thrown off as far as that's concerned. So what we do is we do a lot of vision training, with athletes that I do see those issues with. A lot of eye tracking things. I mean, something as simple. Sorry, get the microphone. Something as simple as jumping rope and tracking something with their eyes. So now you've got a change in height. You've got their body responding to something. Their eyes are tracking. You just changed up something completely different, and you'll love this as a personal trainer. Now it's more metabolically challenging because your brain is totally for only making about 2% of your body's mass. It uses about 20% of your body's resources. So the moment you implement eye tracking and things along those lines, and having to challenge your inner ear, you just change the game.
I love that, people.
Absolutely.
Burn more calories.
Exactly. You'll get people that get fatigued a lot quicker, and then they're like, wait, why? Well, this is why. Your brain is getting challenged a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
We, at the gym, we're in one of the gyms where I coach, we do a lot of combos, a lot of numbers. And, people, they'll complain. Of course, people complain about everything. But they're like, oh, these combos are so tricky, or, there's a 1, a 6, a 3, and under, and I, or I teach tap, right? And I love throwing new things at people. And I mean, I've always thought it's just good to work your brain in that capacity, right? Like a brain twister or whatever. But how cool that you bring in that aspect of it too, that you're actually getting way more out of your workout when you're challenging your brain as well. Absolutely. Which is very cool. Very cool. That's a really cool tip.
Yeah. Another tip that I use with a lot of my athletes that I'm starting to really implement now is metronome training. So someone who does music, someone who does music, you would love that. You have a metronome.
My husband will tell you I suck at using a metronome though.
Well, maybe now you can use it during your workouts.
Yeah, there you go. Something to practice with.
Yeah, it's a weird concept, but think of it like this: that say you're jogging, you have a certain cadence to your run. Your muscles are going to have to fire in a certain cadence and respond in that cadence. So when you're like, say, I have them do something as simple as like a clamshell, I might turn the metronome and they have to get a certain rhythm to when they do the exercise. Okay. And you're going to notice that, oh my gosh, this is getting really fatiguing. But think about when you're running. Your muscles are going to get fatigued in that cadence. So what happens if they get fatigued just doing something as simple as a clamshell in 5 seconds? But you want to run 5 miles. So think about, having to try to recruit those muscle fibers and teaching them how to do that. Right. That's a great mind thing, because now they're having to watch the metronome respond to it, and they have to listen to it too. Wow. Like, that can change everything. Cool.
I could see that being especially important maybe for runners who want to improve their time.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's great for runners. It's great for people who have sustained previous concussions. I mean, it's great for just people in general who are active, because guess what? It's gonna challenge everything. It's gonna challenge everything, make it a little bit more harder. You're gonna get a little bit more of a burn if that's what you're looking for. So that's a really good thing. Cool. But I mean, for me, when going back to what you mentioned about like training their minds, I always tell people that I have a unique group of individuals at Effort.
Oh, okay.
They're my band of weirdos that I love greatly, because they get what we do there. If you get what we do over at Effort, you're going to be a lifer, 100%. And
You're creating a culture.
yeah, absolutely. That's what we're creating over there. And when we talk about mindset, they all understand that this is a process. It's going to be slow. It's going to be, not something that just happens overnight. So, they have bought into that process, and understanding and learning about it is a mindset that they've all started to develop. Some of my younger athletes that, they've been with me for 4 or 5 years, or they've been with me before high school. It's like there's a reason why they're strong as heck right now compared to most upperclassmen, juniors, seniors, and even some college freshmen, because they understand that process. They've bought into it. And I think it translates personally into their sport, because you have to have a certain level of perseverance. You have to have a certain level of accountability, because it's easy to bail when it comes to that stuff.
Yes.
Everyone wants to just play their sport. But when it comes to stuff that is going to actually make you better for your sport, that's the stuff that's hard.
Yes.
It's hard because you're going to have to push yourself to some of those limits. You're going to have to push yourself to do it when you have a lot of homework. You're going to have to push yourself to do it when it's snowy like outside. You have to take away the excuses. And a lot of, like I said, the people that are at Effort, they get that. And I think that's amazing to see. And it makes me super proud when I see a lot of my athletes grasp that concept. And they're like, I want to not do this, but I know that if I don't do it, I'm missing out on my results.
Yes.
I know that I am robbing myself of opportunity. And every week that I might miss is going to set me back. And I've worked too hard for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what an amazing mindset too, to take to every other facet of life.
Exactly.
I mean, I talk about this a lot as a trainer. That working out is not just about being thin or burning calories. I mean, yeah, that's all part of it. But, kind of my buzz phrase is, weight loss is a side effect of living a healthy lifestyle. And, there's people out there like Joe Rogan who talk about this too, that, training your body is also training your mind, right? And that discipline and that perseverance and, getting out to the gym or doing your workout when it's snowy or you have all these other million things to do, being able to come back and center yourself and take that time for yourself and do something good for yourself. And in the eyes of all this other opposition in our lives, like that is so powerful. For everything.
It really
I mean,
is.
going back to like that lesson that you learned, right, in college, and I mean, you had to learn that, that, I mean, we all do at some point, right? We have to learn how to push through that discomfort, because on the other side of that discomfort is such a good reward. And it's that what's the greater discomfort? Being injured and not being able to play your sport, or, feeling overweight, feeling tired all the time. Like, what discomfort is more uncomfortable to you? Or is the discomfort of going to see you or doing your workout or stretching or whatever? Like, enjoy, I guess, embrace that discomfort, because there's such a great reward on the other side of it.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Like, I love the saying that discipline weighs ounces, regrets weighs tons.
Oh, that's another good one.
Thought you might like that one.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like, yes, you can either have it hard now, easy later, or easy now, hard later. Pick one. And it winds up that people who get that sooner wind up being more successful, like not just in sports and athletics, but just in life in general.
Yeah.
Because talent's only going to get you so far. It really is. You have a lot of athletes that are talented, but they're not willing to put in that extra work. And then you wonder why when they get to a certain point, they don't succeed, versus the athlete who might not have been as talented, but they busted their butt. They put that work in,
Yes.
they did their thing. And that's why they've gotten a lot farther. They might not be as tall as somebody. They might not be as fast as somebody, but they figured it out and they put the work in.
I think that was probably my story. I was never super athletic, growing up. I mean, I didn't play sports. I danced obviously all the time, but
That's totally a sport.
Yeah, it is. And growing up, I was overweight. I was inactive. I was, had a lot of stress and depression, and So when I got into fitness, it was a little bit later in life. I learned the hard way and sort of went the opposite direction with it, overtrained for a long time, and, struck a balance, found the middle ground where I'm healthy, and I think maybe that's why I got so into it, and it stuck because it wasn't always just easy for me to be fit or active or all these other things. I had a lot of challenges kind of along the way. So, yeah, I love that. So let's take another little quick break, and then I'd love to chat with you about what someone can experience when they come to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can kind of look at it from a point of view from an athlete or parents out there who might have an athlete, or somebody just training with me at the gym that says, I want to get more out of my workouts, or I'm experiencing an injury. So we are going to do this, and we'll go right into that.
64, Springer Realty has been helping homeowners save thousands when buying or selling their home. Springer Realty is locally owned, provides full service start to finish, and will handle all the paperwork and details. Why pay those high commissions in a seller's market when one phone call can literally save you thousands? Visit us at SpringerSellsHomes.com or call 219-838-0180. Springer Realty.
Have you played today? Playful activity can be anything from taking a walk to your favorite neighborhood deli to picking up a game of soccer with your friends. But most importantly, bringing a playful mindset to everyday life can elevate your mood, increase your energy, and your thirst for life. I'm Krystal, the Playful Trainer. I'm a health, life, and fitness coach. It's my passion to help you find playful ways to get you active, achieve your health goals, and live a more fulfilling life. My new book, The Playful Journal, has been featured on the Make My Day podcast, TuneIn radio show, and in the Northwest Indiana Times. I'm available for individual, group, and online coaching, or I'd love to speak at your next event. You can find me at theplayfultrainer.com or on Facebook or Instagram. Stay playful.
Okay, here we go. I'm getting better at this little techie thing over here. I'll tell you.
Becoming a pro.
So, if you are just tuning in, hopefully if you've watched the whole thing, you could always find us on YouTube. I am the Playful Trainer on YouTube, or you can look up the Playful Life podcast on YouTube. You could also find us on the lovely Ron Harlow Media, where all this takes place. He's so generous in letting me host this podcast here. He's blushing over there. And also brought to you by The Playful Journal. It's a 12-week guide to a more playful life. And I am here talking with Audric Warren, and we're having a very playful conversation and sort of all about that, right? Like play and how we can keep our bodies healthy and increase longevity and all these things. So he is the owner of Effort, Performance, and Rehab. And you're located where?
We're in Dyer, Indiana, so pretty much if you know where the Dyer Indoor Soccer Arena is, we're right in the front of that building.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, that's a perfect location for you.
Exactly.
Awesome. So I'm sure some people out there are still maybe just a little bit confused about, well, I don't know if this is for me, or gosh, I'm a little bit intimidated by this whole process. So what might that look like for, say, somebody like an athlete, a student athlete coming in, and what might differ from that experience or be the same if you're an adult and you're just getting into fitness, or you're going to the gym and you just want to start getting more out of your workouts?
I would say universally, regardless if you come to us for sports performance, for rehab, for recovery, for personal training, any of those things, I would say it all starts pretty much the same. First thing you're going to get is greeted by Yoshi, my overly hyper and friendly golden retriever. Everyone gets greeted by him initially.
I love seeing him on Instagram.
It's his favorite part of the day, so I'm not going to take that from him. Second, what we're going to do is, there's a massive evaluation process. The first of which is, first I got to figure out, what your intentions are. What do you want to do with this? How do you want to go about it? What are you seeking to get out of it? Second, regardless of who it is, we're going to go over like your injury history. Injury history always is lurking in
You
the
better
background.
block out the rest of your afternoon for someone like me.
I mean, you'd be surprised. Oh my goodness, people come in with all kinds of stuff, and we gather that because old stuff always turns into new. We talk about goal setting. You know, if you don't know where you're going, how can I get you there? Plain and simple.
Right.
Everyone gets what I call my effort talk. The initial effort spiel, understanding what we do, how we go about it, giving them the option that if that sounds good for you, then we can rock and roll. If it doesn't, then this isn't the right place. And I give everyone that option because it might not be what they're signing up for, honestly.
Yeah, right.
Because they
it's
have
going
to
to require some work.
Yeah, it's going to require accountability and work on their part. And if they aren't interested in that, it won't work, unfortunately. Like,
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, whether it's rehab, you got to do your home exercises.
Yep.
You have to. Whether it's sports performance, you got to make sure that outside of what we're doing, you're taking care of your body, getting your sleep, eating
Kind of that
decent.
80-20 rule.
Absolutely.
Right?
All those things, like, you have to hold yourself accountable. So if that's not interested, you got to do what you got to do.
A very similar talk I give my clients.
Yeah, exactly. After that, once we know that, then we're going to go through our video analysis. I usually, my video analysis is about 30 or so movements that I have, probably a little bit more, that I have athletes, clients, everyone go through so I can find out where we're starting. Like, how can I prescribe an exercise to you if, say, you're not even able to get your hand above your head? Well, how am I going to give you a pull-up, an overhead press? All these things, if this is, that's our range of motion.
Yes.
I have to find out how everything moves. That way I can find out what exercises I can prescribe to you. Those kinds of things. Even in the evaluation, we look at how the eyes function, how your balance is.
Oh.
Okay. If our movement isn't an issue, well, what's going on between our ears?
Yeah.
That's the other part.
Is there anything going on in between?
Exactly. So once we've evaluated all of those things, we come up with a plan. And if you're an athlete, that's where we kind of vary off. We'll do some more sports performance tests. I need to see how your vertical is, your vertical power, your horizontal power, your endurance, speed, agility, those kinds of things. That way I have a baseline of where you are as an athlete, so that after, 6 weeks, etc., of testing or training, we can test and reevaluate so that we know that, all right, we're on the right path.
Right. So important.
Yeah. Like I said, we just create a bunch of different baselines for everybody. That way we know this is where we are. This is where we are in space and time 6 weeks later. And we keep on going. And if, I equate it to like this, I mean, sports performance, sports medicine is science. You have to treat it like science. So basically, like, I'm just a mad scientist in my laboratory trying to figure out, okay, what variables to plug in so that we get the right, output. What are we trying to get out of this? And if I don't plug in the right things, we're not going to get the right outcome. But when I do, the outcome is going to be great. Let's do more of that and get more of that outcome. So it's one of those things that, we respect the science over at effort of sports performance and sports medicine and how it plays into people moving better, feeling better, getting the results that they're looking for, which is crucial because it's often neglected.
Right.
Again, you get that Instagram, social media, image of what it is. People forget that it is a science. It's been turned into an art because it's, we're using video editing and all those other things.
Right.
So people are looking at, I love to say it like this. People used to take a picture at the top of the mountain. I made it here. Look at me. Yes. Now people are taking pictures at the bottom of the mountain, the middle of the mountain, so they think that that's what it looks like universally. But what it looks like for you won't necessarily look like for someone else, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So that's what a typical first time at effort will look like. And then after that, it'll look vastly,
right, very different.
For a lot of different
to
people.
Your needs.
There'll be a lot of things that we plug in that are very similar because you have to do them for that whole equation of getting faster, stronger, force equals mass times acceleration, all that stuff.
The science is
exactly. But there are a lot of things little tweaks that you have to add in there because someone like you with your ankle sprain, You might have some ankle mobility stuff. We might have to just do something as simple as, have you stand in a stagger stance. We might have you just have something underneath your heel. I might have you just turn your left foot out very slightly, to accomplish what we're looking for. So it looks different for everybody because everyone's so different.
Right. And how awesome that you do that video evaluation, because just from knowing a lot of people over the years, I mean, I see people at the gym all the time, they squat wrong all the time, and that's such a simple thing, right? And we squat to pick things up, and that's how we're supposed to lift weight and all this, but people do it wrong their whole lives, and I know that can contribute to very tight quadriceps, knee pain, different things like that, and they think, well, I go to the gym, I do my squats, I'm working on my legs, why is all this other stuff happening? But it's not until you get another set of eyes on you, someone like you with the education and the training, and you go, oh, well, you spot it right away, right? Yeah. Whereas, people who do these workouts, something they find on Instagram or this or that, and they're like, oh, well, I do like 1,000 squats a week, and I'm following, whoever on Instagram, and you're like, well, you're not getting anything out of that, or you're actually causing harm because you have no idea how your form is, how that is. So, if you love to work out at home, I love to work out at home. Obviously, that didn't work out so well when I broke my ankle, but I also think it's important, if you are going to work out at home and that's your space and that's your jam, please, please, please go see Audric, or if you're not in the area, someone like him, because it's so important just to know that you're doing things right. Yeah. And that you're not causing more damage or harming yourself by wanting to do something good for yourself, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, form is very important, and I see it all the time. Like I said, from the weekend warrior to the most elite. Like, if you're not, moving well when you're trying to throw around weight, especially, you're gonna, like you said, you're gonna hurt yourself, or you're just gonna waste your time.
Right.
You're gonna be like, well, why am I not getting better, stronger, etc.? You're not moving it well.
Right. Yeah.
you're wasting your time. Your form isn't that great, but it's one of those things, like, sometimes I always tell people, weight can wait. Like, it literally can. Like, get the form first.
Right.
Learn how to get your basic movement patterns down before you start to try and throw 45, 250
right.
pounds
And you
on
see
your
a lot
shoulders.
of people, they want to be heroes, especially if you're in a class, and they go, oh, especially a lot of the men that I train in the classes, they don't want the women showing them up, and they grab the heavy dumbbells, and I'm like, okay, it's very, I have to just tell them, like, what, that's too heavy for you. Gotta slow it down, and two, even people who don't maybe work out, right? I mean, stay-at-home moms who are lifting their kids and carrying groceries and all of this stuff. I mean, it's really just so important for every part of our lives, right?
Absolutely.
Not just people who are working out or training for something, but just keeping your body healthy longer. I tell people, like, we do these agility exercises and stuff, and they're like, I don't know why I need to do this. I'm never going to move like this or do this. I'm like, yeah, but when you go outside in a day like today and you start slipping on the ice, your body
welcome.
needs, right, exactly. Like, your body needs to know how to respond quickly, your brain,
Absolutely.
right? All of that whole connection. And so, there's so many more benefits to doing things the right way and understanding your body and preserving all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every bit of exercise done correctly is basically just training your body to be more resilient to life. Legitimately, like you said, walking out in the weather that we have right now, the moment that you make a little slip and you can catch yourself, boom. Now I didn't just blow up my ACL on a random snowy day.
On my way to the whatever, on the way to the gym or work or wherever, yeah.
No one has time for that. No one
has time for that, honestly. Or money, right? I mean, when people talk about, making that investment, I feel like, I've talked about this with other guests, how people always, like, that idea of making this investment is always a little bit challenging to get people to come to meet you there, right? But you have to understand, you either make the investment now or you're paying for it later. And I guarantee you will. I mean, when I worked in the dental industry, Dr. Tori, she's one of our sponsors, education and prevention was so big for our patients because, it was so important, even just getting the cavity filled now, taking care of that before it blows up and you need a root canal, like those little simple things that you can take care of now in this moment, do it. Do it. Make the investment, invest in yourself, because you know, you're going to want to travel. You're going to want to do things. You're going to want to live your life. And you don't have to be paying medical bills because you needed a surgery, or you're sitting at home because you can't move, and all these things. So whether you're making the investment of time or money or energy, it's a trade-off, right?
Yep.
It's always going to catch up with you somewhere.
Oh yeah, always. It never ceases to amaze me how true that is. It will always catch up to you when you try to, like I said, hack your way through things, or say, oh, I have the budget for this but not that. It's like you're robbing yourself because you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it's one of those things that winds up biting you in the butt later. Unfortunately, and it sucks because you all of us that do this stuff, we want people to be better. We want people to be successful. We want people to be healthy and happy and whole. But until they know, until they've had that, like, oh crap, I should have done this situation. You don't know, and someone like yourself, like how you talk about cavities, like you're trying to prevent something. I'm not trying to sell you a product. I'm trying to help you out.
Right.
But it's tough to get that to people that, hey, do this the right way, and the rewards will be so much greater than doing it, half-hearted or poorly. That's going to bite you in the butt later, whether it's injury, whether it's wasted time, whether it's missed opportunity. And, a lot of people, whether it's, I just want to be able to play with my kid, I just want to be able to go play basketball with my buddies, or I want to be a Division I, athlete.
No matter where you are.
No matter what part of the spectrum that you are, if you don't do it the right way, you're gonna wind up going to pick up your kid and be like, oh, my back.
Yeah.
or blowing out your knee or your Achilles because you were playing basketball with your friends, or I'm sitting on the sidelines because I have an injury that I could have easily prevented if I just took better care of myself.
Right.
It's just one of those things that some people don't know until they know. Some people get it.
Yes. Yes. And on that note, I love to kind of dream big with client or people who are on my show, my guests. Like, what is your hope to kind of bring this message and kind of change the rhetoric and change the conversation, and how do you see like yourself and effort kind of fitting into that? Like, do you want to do more education? Do you want to get in front of large groups of people? How does that kind of play out in your mind?
In my mind, education's huge for me. I would love to get these concepts out to people more, mostly because I'm the minority when it comes to the stuff that I'm doing, because it's cheaper, more convenient for, like I said, the sports performance class setting. It's cheaper. It's actually more convenient to sit in a boot, and not work on your ankle mobility. It's cheaper to have a doc say, oh, your shoulder hurts, don't throw for a year. Getting some of that educational components out to say, okay, here's how we can work on reducing the risk of injury. Whether it's something as simple as going to a high school or a travel team and say, okay, we're going to take some measurements for you guys. We'll do a little quick video analysis for you guys or girls. And here we go. We have this information. Here's the information. Here's what you can do with it. And using that information so that people aren't missing out.
Yeah.
Basically trying to make it more inclusive, and getting out of that mindset of every time you work out, you got to be throwing up. Every time, you work out, it's got to look like battle ropes and throwing around 100-pound med balls,
right.
and, doing just the most ridiculous stuff on Swiss balls.
Yeah.
The whole mentality of obstacle course training, getting that mentality out of there and saying that this is what it really looks like. This is what we can do to help you, and how that fits into your life. Let's see what we can do to plug that in.
Yeah.
Just trying to educate people more, I think, would be huge, because you would think in this day and age, with the ability to go on your phone and look up everything that you could possibly want to, we would know more now.
Right. That obesity would just be cured, right?
Yeah. All of that stuff
right
would
there.
just be gone. Absolutely.
The information's right there.
It's literally in the palm of your hand. But it somehow has made us less intelligent on how we should treat ourselves. and it's unfortunate because obviously I guarantee you see stuff on the internet and it makes you cringe.
Yes.
Like that's why I try to stay off of it. I try to stay off of it as much as possible because I do it. It is very cringeworthy to see like this is what people are doing, and it's acceptable. Like you have people who are in these positions that are trainers, that are therapists, that are doctors, and it's just a disservice to people.
Right.
By giving them information that's not up to date, that is not relevant, that is,
Or trying to make it a one-size-fits-all type of situation,
cutter.
right?
Getting rid of that cookie cutter mentality. And it doesn't work like that. Just getting people aware of those things would be massive.
Awesome.
Like, I would love that.
Yeah, good. Well, I mean, if you're out there and you're listening or watching and, you go to a gym or you're on a team or your kids are on a team, we'll give you some information where you can find out how to contact Audric, and he would love to come and, speak to your group, speak to your gym, speak to whoever, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just get this word out there. And, hopefully somebody listening might be not only inspired to come see you, but, maybe go down a path of doing sports medicine themselves and,
Absolutely.
Performance. And I think we're going to see that field grow. We obviously see a lot of fitness professionals and stuff like that, but I think people are going to get a little jaded by all the cruddy information that's out there. I think people are going to seek kind of that right path, and I hope that we do see more people going into this field and actually doing the education and, putting in the time and doing it the right way.
Yeah. Absolutely. That would be the goal. Absolutely. To get people moving in the right direction, and hopefully we can get to that point.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to have you, come and talk to the gyms where I coach. I think that'd be awesome to, have you as a resource and, connect you with my clients and stuff like that. And, obviously if you know people out there that you think could benefit from this, I'm sure you do, or you yourself would benefit from this, do something good for yourself, make an appointment. So how would people get in touch with you? Tell us. I'll also link this in the show notes here on Facebook and also on YouTube as well. So
they can find me Instagram /effort_PR. I have a Twitter effort PR, Facebook effort PR. My website is www.effort/performance.com. I mean, any of those, basically they have a link or etc. directly to our website, which has our phone number, email address. I'm very available. I'm one of those people that I love to talk to people and get the information to them. So any of those ways, whether it's direct message, email, cell phone, that's how you can get me.
Awesome. Very, very good. So is there anything else you'd like to throw out there to people before we go, or?
Yeah, I just want to, say thank you for the opportunity to come on your show.
Absolutely.
It was an awesome
Thank you for
time.
joining me. This is great.
Yeah, it was an awesome time. I appreciate it. I'm always wanting to give thanks to, Effort family for, being supportive always and coming in and doing their thing and representing us and, everyone that's all supported us, family, friends, etc. I could go on for days.
Yeah, no, this
but
is good.
yeah, that's exactly,
that's wonderful.
Those kinds of things I always like to give thanks because I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Good, yeah, and I think that shows. And for those of you who can't tell, Audric is a very warm person, right? He's not intimidating at all, not scary. I think a lot of people think that, I don't know, sports people are meatheads or whatever, very intimidating, and he's not like that at all. So female, male, kids, adults, anybody I think would be very comfortable coming to you for help. So I think that's important to tell people, because I think this whole realm of fitness, right, from our end of the table, we're in it, so we don't see it that way, but I think a lot of other people can get very scared and intimidated by it. So don't be. He's really fun.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again to all of our sponsors, to Ron Harlow, of course, for allowing me to come and sit in his living room and do this. And
You live in this room.
to all of you out there listening and watching. Again, I'm the Playful Trainer. You can find me on Instagram at the Playful Trainer, on Facebook, or on YouTube. So we will see you next Thursday. I will have Patty Schaffner on the show next Thursday, and she's amazing. She does cranial sacral healing, and she also does sound therapy, which is very cool, from somebody who loves music and does music all the time. I think that'll be really interesting to hear her point of view on all of that. So again, thank you to Audric for being here from Effort, Performance, and Rehab, and stay playful.